Have you ever wondered what it actually takes to make a narcissist lose all interest in you and finally leave you alone for good? Today, I want to walk you through 7 things that work so well they'll make a narcissist back away and never come near you again. And the last one on this list is so powerful that they'll start treating you like something dangerous, like a threat they'd rather avoid than face. Most people assume that the way to handle a narcissist is to push back, argue their point, or fight to prove they're right. But that approach does the opposite of what you'd hope. It keeps the narcissist locked onto you because arguing is exactly what feeds their hunger for drama, attention, and control. What actually breaks their grip is when you become still, calm, and completely unshaken. When that happens, you stop being interesting to them. You stop handing over the emotional fuel they've been living off of. And that's what I want to show you today, one piece at a time. Before we get into it, I want to make one thing really clear. None of this is about getting revenge or trying to manipulate anyone back. This is about protecting your peace, your energy, and your own sense of self. Narcissists behave like emotional parasites. They live off your responses, whether that's your fear, your sadness, your frustration, or even your love. And as long as you keep reacting, they'll keep coming back for more. Psychology tells us that narcissists don't see the people around them as separate individuals with their own freedom. Instead, they see them as possessions, as a supply of emotional energy they can tap into whenever it suits them. But here's what they don't want you to figure out. The whole illusion collapses the instant you stop playing the part they've assigned you. The moment you quit chasing them, explaining yourself, or reacting to their games, they lose their grip completely. So let's go through these 7 shifts that cause narcissists to lose interest and walk away for good. And I promise you, the final one is the most powerful of them all. The first thing you need to do is stop handing over your emotional reactions. To a narcissist, your emotions are like fuel for a fire. It genuinely doesn't matter to them whether that emotion is love or hatred. What matters is that you're still responding, that you still care enough to feel something at all. Every time you cry, plead, argue, or try to justify yourself, you're feeding them precisely what they're starving for. Think about how a spoiled toddler behaves. When a child throws a fit and gets attention for it, they learn that fits get results. Narcissists operate on the exact same principle, except they're grown adults functioning with the emotional maturity of a toddler having a tantrum. Every time you react, they feel a surge of power. But the second you stay calm and emotionally unreadable, that power starts slipping away from them. At first, they'll escalate. They'll say cruel things, provoke you on purpose, maybe even fake some kind of change just to pull a response out of you. They'll try everything in their arsenal to get a reaction. But when you give them absolutely nothing back, no anger, no tears, no excitement, they start to lose steam. Because really, what's the point of putting on a show if nobody's watching anymore? This isn't about faking indifference either. It means you've actually reached a place where their words, their insults, their drama simply don't land on you the way they used to. That's genuine inner strength, not a performance. The second shift is committing to real, complete no contact. A lot of people believe they're doing no contact while quietly making small exceptions here and there. But true no contact means zero communication, zero curiosity, and zero checking in. There are usually 5 ways people accidentally break their own no contact without even realizing it. Texting directly, sending messages through a third party, scrolling their social media, driving past places they might be, or asking mutual friends for updates. You have to shut every one of these doors completely. Picture a burglar scoping out a neighborhood. He walks up to a house with a locked gate, security cameras, bright lights, and a dog barking behind the fence, and he just moves on. But then he spots a house with an open window and no alarm system, and that's the one he targets. Narcissists think in exactly the same way. They're always searching for the easiest way back in. So if you make that access difficult, they'll eventually give up and move on to someone easier. That's why your no contact has to be airtight. Block their number. Block them everywhere on social media. Change your phone number if that's what it takes. Let mutual friends know you don't want updates about them and that you won't be giving any updates either. But here's the part that trips most people up. You also have to stop checking up on them yourself. Every single time you peek at their profile or ask someone how they're doing, you're chipping away at your own boundary. And somehow, they always seem to sense it. But once you go completely silent, you become invisible to them. Narcissists can't manipulate someone they can't reach. They can't control what they can't see or contact. They might test the waters occasionally to see if you'll respond, but if you never do, they eventually stop trying altogether. The third shift is to stop defending yourself or over-explaining. Narcissists are experts at twisting your own words against you and making you feel like you owe them a justification for everything you do. They'll accuse you of things you never even did just to keep the conversation and your attention going. The more energy you put into explaining yourself, the deeper you sink into their trap. When you defend your actions to them, you're essentially agreeing that you need their approval to feel okay about yourself. You're handing them the authority to judge your worth. But think about what changes when you simply stop. If they tell you that you're selfish and you just say, okay, or if they claim you never really cared and you respond with, that's your opinion, suddenly they lose their footing. Their whole strategy depends on your desperate need to be understood and validated by them. The moment you stop caring what they think of you, they lose their ability to wound you. You don't need their approval to know your own worth. You don't need to prove how good, loyal, or loving you've been, because to them, none of that ever mattered in the first place. Now, this doesn't mean you let lies about you spread unchecked everywhere. If your job or reputation is genuinely on the line, of course you defend yourself professionally in that context. But in personal relationships with a narcissist, silence is almost always the smarter move. Don't engage with their games. When you stop explaining yourself, you're sending a clear message that their opinions no longer hold power over you, that you no longer let them define who you are. And that's something a narcissist simply cannot tolerate. The fourth shift is developing genuine, real indifference. You can't fake not caring, because narcissists are remarkably good at detecting fake energy. True indifference only happens once you've healed enough that you honestly don't care anymore what they're doing, who they're spending time with, or what they're saying about you. They become emotionally irrelevant to your life. You stop checking their updates. You stop wondering what they're up to. You stop hoping, somewhere in the back of your mind, that they miss you. They just become another person existing in the world who no longer has any access to your emotions. Getting to that place requires grieving first. You have to grieve the fantasy version of them, the person you believe they were, because that version never actually existed the way you imagined it. Once you allow yourself to process that loss, real peace starts to settle in. From there, you begin to see them clearly for the first time, not as powerful or mysterious, but as someone deeply insecure and broken underneath it all. You start to understand that their cruelty comes from a place of emptiness, and their need for control comes from fear. And once that clicks for you, their behavior stops feeling personal. That's when they lose their hold on you entirely. Real indifference isn't the same as hatred, by the way. Hatred still feeds them just as much as love does. Indifference means you genuinely feel nothing toward them, just a flat neutrality. You stop trying to understand their behavior, fix them, or hope they'll change. They simply cease to exist within your emotional world. That's the moment true freedom begins. The fifth shift is putting your full attention back onto your own life. This is where actual healing takes root. You stop shaping your choices around them. You stop posting things hoping they'll notice or feel jealous. You stop trying to prove your worth through your actions. You stop showing up at places hoping you'll run into them by accident. You stop asking yourself what they'd think if you did this or that. Instead, you start living for yourself, genuinely. You pick up new projects, meet people who bring good energy into your life, and chase after the things you actually want. You pour your time into whatever excites you instead of replaying old memories on a loop in your head. You invest in your own growth, your health, your happiness, and something remarkable starts to happen. You begin to glow from the inside out. Your whole energy shifts into something calmer, lighter, more fulfilled. Narcissists despise this transformation because it shatters the illusion they were relying on, that you can't function without them. They want to see you struggling, broken, still longing for them. But when you're out there actually building a good life, their influence over you starts to fade completely. Once your focus shifts to yourself, you no longer have the mental space to dwell on their chaos. You're too busy creating something peaceful of your own. You stop comparing your life to theirs. You stop competing. You stop explaining. You stop caring altogether. And that peace becomes a kind of armor, protecting you from ever getting pulled back into those same old patterns again. The sixth shift is letting go of the urge to expose them or force them to change. This one tends to be the hardest, because your sense of fairness is screaming that they need to be held accountable for what they've done. You want to warn people. You want the world to see them for who they really are. But every time you try to expose a narcissist, you're feeding them more of exactly what they crave. Because even negative attention still counts as attention to them. They genuinely don't mind if you hate them. What matters to them is that you're still talking about them at all. And when you do try to call them out, they often flip the narrative and play the victim, twisting the story until it favors them. They'll convince others that you're the obsessed one, the bitter one, the unstable one. Narcissists tend to be charming with outsiders, and there's a good chance they've already told their version of events before you ever get the chance to speak. So when you finally do try to set the record straight, it can end up looking like exactly what they claimed, proof that you're fixated on them. It's not fair, but it's usually how it plays out. The same logic applies to trying to change them. You cannot fix someone who refuses to acknowledge there's even a problem. Sending them articles about narcissistic behavior, begging them to seek help, breaking down their patterns for them. None of that does anything except keep you tethered to them emotionally. Their healing was never your responsibility. Their self-awareness isn't something you can give them. You can't teach empathy to someone who has no interest in feeling it. Once you release the need to expose or fix them, you get your energy back. You stop playing the hero in their story and start becoming the main character in your own. That shift right there is the real win. The truest form of revenge is simply living well, not to spite them, but to heal yourself. And when you're genuinely happy, grounded, and at peace, that's the one thing they will never be able to take from you. Now for the seventh and final shift, the one that changes everything. Become completely emotionally unavailable to them as a source of supply. This is the deepest form of freedom you can reach. It means you're not just physically distant anymore, you're emotionally untouchable. They lose the ability to trigger you because you've fully detached from any need for their approval or their attention. When they text you, you don't answer. When they insult you, nothing in you flinches. When they praise you, you don't melt or soften. You stay steady, calm, grounded, no matter what they throw your way. You offer them nothing, no anger, no love, no pity, no explanations of any kind. You become as unmoved as stone, not out of coldness or hatred, but out of a deep, quiet strength. Once you reach this level, something bigger happens than just one narcissist losing interest. You stop attracting narcissistic people altogether. They can sense almost instinctively when someone has no emotional supply left to offer, and they simply move on. You become invisible to people who want to drain you and magnetic to people who actually want to nurture you. You start pulling in people whose energy matches your peace instead of people who constantly test it. Becoming emotionally unavailable in this sense isn't about performing strength you don't feel. It's about being truly, fully healed on the inside. It's about recognizing that your peace is far too valuable to keep spending on people who only know how to drain it. Once you're emotionally unreachable to manipulation, you're finally free. You get to live your life without their shadow trailing behind you anymore. So there you have it. 7 powerful shifts that will make a narcissist lose interest and walk away from you for good. Stop handing over emotional reactions. Commit to no contact and hold that line firmly. Stop defending or over-explaining yourself. Build genuine indifference. Pour your focus into your own life. Let go of trying to expose or fix them. And finally, become emotionally unavailable as a source of supply. None of this is about punishing them or proving a point. It's about reclaiming your peace, your joy, and your self-respect. When you actually apply these shifts, you're not just making them lose interest in you, you're setting yourself completely free. The goal was never to hurt them. The goal has always been to heal you. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is simply walking away quietly and never looking back, not out of hatred, but because you finally learned how to love yourself more than you ever loved the idea of them. You don't owe them your pain, your reactions, or even closure. You owe yourself peace instead. When you rise above their games and stop responding to the chaos they create, you become untouchable. You become the one thing they were never able to control. Calm, grounded, and completely free. And that's the real win, not beating them at their own game, but choosing yourself over all of it. When you finally break free from that cycle, something incredible starts happening inside you. You begin to realize just how much of your life you spent trying to earn love from someone who never actually had any real love to give. You start remembering all the times you explained yourself, hoping they'd finally understand, only to be misunderstood all over again. You begin to see clearly that the constant arguing, the confusion, the sudden bursts of affection followed by cruelty, none of it was ever your fault. It was all part of a design meant to keep you trapped inside their web. Narcissists build emotional traps designed to make you question your own worth and your own reality. So when you finally step outside of that trap, the air around you feels different, lighter, cleaner, calmer. The silence that used to terrify you slowly becomes the very thing that protects you. At first, that silence can feel like a loss. You might find yourself missing the intensity, even the chaos, because your nervous system had become wired for it, almost addicted to the highs and lows. But what you're actually missing isn't love at all. It's the emotional roller coaster itself. That's the nature of trauma bonding. It rewires your brain to crave the very person who caused you the most pain. But given enough time, the fog starts to clear. You start sleeping better. You start smiling for no particular reason. You start feeling genuinely safe within your own space. That's how you know healing is actually taking place. The narcissist might believe they broke you completely, but in truth, all they really did was push you closer toward your own awakening. Narcissists never expect the people they've hurt to actually rise above it. They expect you to stay stuck, replaying the same story over and over in your head, holding out for closure that will never come. But the deepest form of closure is realizing you never needed one in the first place. You don't need their apology. You don't need them to admit any wrongdoing. You don't need to hear the words, "I'm sorry," because with them, those words were never sincere to begin with, just another strategy. Once that truth settles in, you stop waiting around. You take your power back and move forward without them. Healing from a narcissist is never a quick process, but every step of it is worth it. It feels a lot like walking out of a dark cave after years spent inside. At first, the sunlight is almost painful against your eyes, but little by little, you start noticing colors you'd completely forgotten existed. You start noticing the small joys again, the sound of your own laughter, the comfort of real peace, the beauty found in a quiet morning where nobody is judging you. You start reconnecting with who you were before all the manipulation, before the self-doubt, before the lies took over. You reconnect with your own soul. And as your healing continues, you start attracting different kinds of people entirely. You stop drawing in people who drain you because your entire energy has shifted. Healthy people recognize your peace and respect it instinctively. Broken people, on the other hand, feel uncomfortable around that same peace and naturally drift away. That shift is exactly how you know you're growing. Once peace starts feeling normal to you and chaos starts feeling foreign, you stop chasing intensity and start craving calm instead. You come to understand that love was never supposed to hurt like that. Real love is gentle. Real love is consistent. Real love feels safe, not confusing. Narcissists can't survive in that kind of environment because they need confusion, competition, and control to feel alive at all. Once you stop supplying that, they lose all interest completely. They'll go looking for someone new, someone who still believes in their charm, someone who still reacts, someone still willing to hand over their energy freely. Let them go find that person. You were never the solution to their emptiness. You were never meant to be their savior, their therapist, or their emotional crutch. You were never supposed to fix them. You were only ever meant to learn from the experience, to learn where you gave your power away and how to make sure you never do that again. That's exactly why your healing isn't just recovery, it's a full transformation. The version of you who used to tolerate disrespect doesn't exist anymore. The version who kept over-explaining herself has learned the value of silence. The version who used to beg for love now gives that love to herself first before anyone else. You've evolved into someone new entirely. You've grown into a person who no longer performs for scraps of affection because you've since built your own table, full and complete on its own. You've learned that peace isn't boring, it's sacred. There will still be moments where old triggers surface, certain memories might resurface out of nowhere. You might hear a particular song or see a message that pulls you back to them for a second. But instead of falling apart in that moment, you'll pause, take a breath, and recognize just how far you've come. You made it through. They no longer have any control over your emotions. That realization runs deep. It feels like reclaiming a piece of your soul that they once tried to take from you. Every time you choose silence instead of reacting, that's a win. Every time you choose peace instead of chaos, that's a win too. Every time you walk away instead of trying to prove yourself to someone who never deserved the effort, that's a win. And every single time you catch your own reflection and realize you no longer need their validation to feel whole, that's the biggest win of all. That's what real victory actually looks like. Not the kind that needs an audience or applause, but the quiet, powerful kind that unfolds entirely within your own spirit. Eventually, you'll stop wondering whether they still think about you. You'll stop asking yourself why they did the things they did. You'll stop trying to find logic in something that was never built on logic to begin with. Narcissists don't operate from a place of love. They operate from fear, fear of being ordinary, fear of being ignored, fear of being seen for who they really are. They wear confidence like a costume to cover up a deep, hollow emptiness underneath. You no longer need to understand the reasons behind their behavior, because their actions have already told you everything you need to know. This next chapter of your life was never about revenge. It's about rebirth. You're becoming the version of yourself they once tried to tear down. The version who knows her own worth, who protects her peace fiercely, who trusts her own intuition without question. You stop doubting yourself and start listening again to that inner voice that was warning you the entire time. You start believing in your own strength once more. You stop apologizing for having boundaries. You stop making yourself smaller just to keep others comfortable. You start living boldly, freely, and peacefully. And that's the exact moment the narcissist truly loses, not when you argue with them, not when you expose them publicly, but when you heal so completely that even their name no longer stirs anything inside you. That's the moment you've won the final battle. They can no longer reach you emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. You've stepped fully outside the range of their reach. So if you're still somewhere in that fog of confusion or pain right now, hold on. Healing takes time, and that's okay. But every single day you maintain no contact, every day you resist the urge to react, every day you choose peace over drama, you're moving one step closer to real freedom. Don't measure your progress by how quickly you stop thinking about them altogether. Measure it instead by how little power those thoughts hold over you now. You are not the same person you were when they first came into your life. You're stronger now, wiser now, far more aware than you've ever been. In the end, the narcissist actually taught you something valuable, even if that was never their intention. They taught you how to protect your energy, how to trust your own intuition, and how to truly value your peace. Pain became your teacher along the way, but healing became your graduation. You don't need closure from them because you've already closed that chapter for yourself on your own terms. Looking back, you'll probably notice how much wisdom came out of something that felt unbearable at the time. You learned to read red flags you used to dismiss. You learned that charm without consistency means nothing. You learned that love isn't supposed to keep you anxious, guessing, or constantly trying to earn basic respect. These are lessons that will follow you for the rest of your life, quietly protecting you in every relationship that comes after this one. That's the strange gift hidden inside all that pain. It sharpened you. It taught your intuition to speak up louder and earlier next time. And one day, maybe without even noticing the exact moment it happens, you'll realize you've become someone new. Someone who doesn't shrink to keep the peace. Someone who trusts her own perception of reality instead of constantly questioning it. Someone who can spot manipulation from a distance and simply walk in another direction without a second thought. You'll look back at the person you used to be, the one who begged, explained, and shrank herself down to fit into someone else's chaos, and you'll feel compassion for her rather than shame. She did the best she could with what she understood at the time. She just didn't have the tools you have now. Now it's time to live. It's time to build a life filled with genuine love, honesty, and calm. Exactly the kind of life you deserved all along. Not a life defined by what you survived, but a life defined by everything you're choosing next, on your own terms, in your own time, at your own pace.